A unified platform where planning, performing, and presenting all live in the same place, where Sunday prep is no longer a tedious, headache-producing process, but a breeze? This all sounds great, but you may be wondering, how do I transition my team to using Uplift? Well, don't worry, in this video, I'm going to share my story, how our team transitioned from maybe where you are right now to using Uplift every single week. And I hope you can glean insight from our story and learn from some of our mistakes so that your team can transition too. So let's jump right in with the journey. Obviously, spoiler alert, we're using Uplift every week, so that's where we ended up. But it's helpful to start from the very beginning. I've been on my worship team for quite a while, so there was like some leadership transitions way back, and I think I'm going to start with probably where we were during that leadership transition. So we were using paper chord sheets, we were doing wedge monitors, we had no click, no IEMs, still using like a presentation software, typical situation. So maybe you're there right now, or maybe you're somewhere in this process, but that's where we started. So let that be an encouragement. If we could take a team who used paper music, wedge monitors, all the way now to using digital music, a click, synchronized presentation, Uplift basically, anything's possible. So the first direction we really pushed in is, how about getting everyone on the same page? How do we kind of improve our music and be more together, right? And that started with a click track. How we did it is the drummer had earbuds essentially, for the metronome, and he would be the only one with the click. While the rest of us, we still had our wedge monitors. It'd be kind of hard to put a click through wedge monitors without it being painfully obvious to everybody else we were using a click. So you can't really do that with wedges, sadly. But at least the drummer with a click was better than nothing. Well, if the drummer had a click and we followed the drummer, we'd be okay. But still, there was room for improvement. I think this was one factor of motivating us to move towards in-ear monitors, not the sole factor. Actually, the biggest factor, I believe, was just the fact wedges, especially if your wedges aren't in phase with your mains, it becomes muddied and it's not as clear. So we wanted to clarify our audio, have a cleaner sound, and the way we would do that is eliminate the wedges and use in-ears. That was one of the first big transitions that got this ball kind of rolling. So we transitioned to in-ears. We replaced our board with a Behringer wing. We got P16 personal mixers, in-ears. We thought about easing into this transition. We were thinking, maybe we'll run the wedges and the in-ears in parallel. But we ended up just cutting straight. Like, it's not worth it. It's too much effort, more than what it's worth. We just cut straight to using the in-ears. Now the click, I'm trying to think if that was immediate or if we took some time. But then we brought in the click too. We would have a metronome app installed on the drummer's phone, I believe, and he would turn on and off the click for us, and we would all hear it. So that worked pretty well. It was definitely a transition to get used to. If you're transitioning to a click, if your team members, again, if they feel comfortable with it, just turn up the click. I'd say at least you as a leader and your drummer should have the full click, full volume, for sure. But for your other team members, maybe just each week, turn it up a little, week by week, turn it up a little until it is fully into their mix and they're adjusted to the click. That would be my approach or suggestion. Otherwise, if they're comfortable, I see no problem transitioning hard to the click. The thing we ran into, though, is we got annoyed with some of the apps out there. It didn't seem like the apps out there fulfilled our needs. Whether it be the sounds weren't too great, or sometimes we would lose the songs, I think, the set list we'd put in there, or the app would update and we'd lose certain features. We found it maybe difficult, annoying, and just not fulfilling our needs. So this is where the birth of Uplift comes into play. So besides being very passionate about music and worship, I'm also a web developer. I started teaching myself web development back in 7th grade, actually got a formal degree in web development, so it's one of my passions. All that to say, I was like, hey, why not just build a metronome app ourselves? So we did. We built our own lightweight metronome app web app that we used, and after sorting out a few bugs, we relied on that week to week. It fulfilled our needs, it had a good sound, it saved a catalog of songs with tempos. We were able to construct a set list, queue them up, and then dequeue them for the next week, and that served our purposes very well. I had this long-term vision about Uplift in terms of digital chord sheets, synchronization, all being on the same page, literally. But this was the starting point. This was materially the first manifestation of that idea. But still, there was more ground to cover for sure. We had inconsistent chord sheets. We would get chord sheets from different sources. Some were better, some were worse. Some were clearer, some were confusing. And this sadly would create sometimes tension, even arguments amongst our team members, me included. Sometimes there'd be some feathers ruffled between our team members. And in part, it's due to our sinful human nature. Other part, it could be solved by clearer music. Obviously, the heart problem needs to be solved first, but this could be addressed by making clearer music. And that's what we did. So what I built is a chord sheet editor, essentially, in hopes for the future plans of transitioning to the digital music. I figured, hey, we can start entering these songs now into our system and print out the physical copies. Yet, they'd be there ready for us when we transition to digital music. So what that allowed us to do is make much more consistent, standardized chord sheets, a lot clearer, easier to follow. So that was a huge win. Another thing we started doing was not printing them week to week, but using binders and saving our music. So we saved our chord sheets, filed them away, and when we would construct our set list, we'd pull them out of file, stick them in sheet protectors and binders, and that was pretty nice. If you're printing out paper chord sheets week to week, if you're doing this transition, get a binder. Binders make things easier, a lot easier to handle. But still, again, paper music has its problems, and you can watch previous videos on why those problems exist. But even saving the chord sheets was tedious. It's still a chore. You gain something, but you lose another. You see, so there's always trade-offs. So we kept pushing further. Eventually, I was able to roll out my digital chord sheet system with our team. It took a few tries, though, but eventually it got to a point where it was stable, and we started using it. However, not everyone transitioned to Uplift, as one member of the team didn't. He stayed on paper music. He tried it first, but what he found was, I believe the biggest issue is it initially didn't highlight, it just scrolled. So when he would look down, he would have his place, look up, and then look back down at his music. It might have scrolled and, well, he lost his place. Didn't know where he was. So that was a big issue. And until I kind of solved that, he was like, I can't use this. So transitions can sometimes be met with pushback, with people being like, I can't really do this. And then they're still on kind of the old way of doing things. But once I implemented highlighting, you can exactly know where you are instantly by just looking at it. He adopted it, he got on board, that pleased him. It's actually one of his favorite features because other systems don't do that. This tells you where you are. You never lose your place. But we were still using paper for the vocalists. You see, during service, we were still using a presentation software, and the vocalists would just look at the back monitor. If you have a confidence monitor is what it's called, or a stage view, it's just on the back, and the vocalists just look at that and get their lyrics that way. But during rehearsal, that's a different story. You see, we don't want to burden the tech crew with having to flip through slides when they could be doing more important stuff like setting up the live stream or sound check or just a number of things. So this is another pain point where we wanted to make the switch fully to digital and get rid of the paper. So what I did is I created a lightweight presentation feature. Nothing fancy, no multimedia, no graphics, no backgrounds, literally just lyrics. But they scrolled, they synchronized with the music in real time, so since our music highlights, also the lyrics flip automatically. But it was more so a confidence monitor than a fully fledged presentation. So it covered the rehearsal case, and after sorting out a few bugs, we were using that. We transitioned fully off of paper, which was such a relief. Yet still we were managing both our music and the presentation lyrics. It's funny, sometimes when we're building these systems and we want to realize more efficiency, we create a lot more work for ourselves in that transition, and it makes it kind of harder. It's strange how that works, but that was the case. Well, we were thinking about how do we get off of our presentation software and just use this presentation. So we decided to try it out on a Christmas Eve service. So we went through with it and we were like, okay, let's use the confidence monitor as our lyric presentation for this Christmas Eve service. It was the perfect use case to have a proof of concept, and we went ahead and did that. Although I do have a funny story about a rogue kettle. Funny enough, we have our coffee machines, we have our audio board, and apparently our network equipment on the same breaker. So when somebody flipped on a kettle for making hot chocolate, I don't know, but that did it. That drew too much power and tripped the breaker minutes before service. I think, in fact, literally, I was up there playing prelude music, and I just hear my ears go out, and I'm like, what just happened? This can't be good. And then I see on my tablet, disconnected. I was like, no. This was a disaster situation. Come to find out, this tripped the breaker. Our network went down. So of course, when the network goes down, the peer connections between the tablets drop. So we had to get the breaker back on, the network back on. I literally stopped doing prelude, had to run and fix everything and get everything all reconnected and up and running, and we did. And well, it all worked. The confidence monitor worked and proved its point. Finally, we kind of realized that efficiency and that transition. So the worship leader at that time, maybe it was a few weeks after that Christmas Eve service, begged the question, well, why not use this confidence monitor every Sunday for the presentation of the lyrics? We discussed the trade-offs, like, well, what do we do about multimedia? What do we do about scripture? What do we do? And we ended up saying, like, well, we can use the presentation software we have and Uplift in parallel. And that's what we did. At the beginning of 2025, I founded my company and started building the real version of Uplift, the official version, incorporating a lot of that feedback, a lot of the features that I feel would make it better. So that brings us to where we are now as a team. We were still on the prototype for about a year, I would say, about a year, and then we transitioned rather recently to official Uplift. And right now, we use it week in, week out. It's just every single week. And it makes worship so easy. It works very well with our digital music that scrolls and highlights in real time, our lyric presentation that also scrolls in real time and is synchronized. The click works great with our in-ear monitors. Uplift just takes care of all of that, and we don't have to go to different systems, separate systems, disconnected systems, and do so much work. My workflow has become so efficient. The worship leader there previously took on a senior pastor role recently, about half a year ago, and I stepped into the role of worship leader, and that's been quite a transition too. So to you worship leaders out there, I want to say I appreciate you. I understand how much work goes into it, into your craft each and every week. I'm in your shoes. And if you're a worship team member watching this, be sure to say thanks to your leader and tell them that you appreciate them, because you don't know how much work they really do. I mean, conceptually, when I served on the worship team, I knew that. I understood, oh, this is a lot of work. But not until you actually do it do you realize, like, wow, this is a lot of work. So be sure to be appreciative of your worship leader. But anyways, I mean, it's been wonderful transitioning to Uplift and using it. But it took a long time to get there. And there's still ways to expand the product. By no means is this the end of our journey. It's just the beginning. I'm so excited where we're going to take Uplift, the direction we're going, the features we'll be adding, and I hope you'll be on board and experience it with us. From this transition story, what can you glean? We come back to the question of the opening of this video. How can you transition your team to Uplift? I will say, with this transition and any transition, it takes years. So don't be surprised if it takes longer than expected or if you receive some pushback, because I know definitely for sure at least from maybe one person or two, you'll receive some pushback, if not all your team. So the importance is just loop them in on the discussion. You don't have to transition alone or feel like you're the one rolling out changes. Don't do too much at once. Introduce one thing at a time. And once you start using Uplift, I'd love to hear your feedback, whether that be in the comments or you can shoot us an email. I'd love to hear your feedback on Uplift, how we can help you worship unhindered. In a closing thought, I want to talk about lessons I learned, expectations during transition periods. As much as it was a transition in technology, a software engineering process, I think it was also a process of character building. Not only did I learn how to build software that met our team's needs, but I learned how to be gracious, more humble, not easily offended by the pushback. And as a worship leader, if you're a worship leader, you probably know that already if you've been in it for a while. So that's something I've been learning even more, because they're not there to serve you, you're there to serve them. At the end of the day, worship isn't about the technology. It's about your heart, and no amount of technology is going to make up for an unprepared heart for worship. So my encouragement is, well, how do I begin? Well, just try Uplift and see if it can work for you. That's why we made it so easy. You can try it for yourself for free. You don't need to sign up, there's no account to make, there's no payment info, no commitment, no risk, no obligation. You just go to the web app and start using it. You can't really use it with a team. It's not really built for that, the free version, but you could use it for yourself and see and experience what digital music is like, just how easy it is to enter chord sheets, what the presentation might look like. You could all try that for free. But if you find that it's something that's useful, something you think will absolutely help your team, by all means you can upgrade and start using it with your whole team. If you already use a click track in your monitors and digital music, this transition will be a breeze. It'll be nothing. But if you're on the other end of the spectrum and you're kind of starting where we started this story, it will take some time. Uplift might not be your first move. If you're still using wedges, you might need to transition to in-ears, might be a good logical step. Then eventually to digital music, Uplift. Because this product is really designed for those who want to use a click track, allow their music to automatically advance and highlight, presentation to synchronize in real time, and that kind of requires some equipment and some experience. Now still, if you want to use wedge monitors, but you want to get rid of your paper, you want to keep your presentation and music in sync, by all means, you can still manually control the music and use it and derive very much value from Uplift, although you're not using it to its fullest potential. Maybe Uplift isn't for you, and that's the point. You can try it for free to determine if it's for you. The link is in the description below. But above the technology you use, our biggest desire is that you worship unified and unhindered. If we help you with what we've built with Uplift, great. If not, great. Either way, we're here to help you in that journey, and we would love to hear your feedback, and we'd love to connect with you. But that's all for today's video. If you found it helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with your fellow worship leaders and team. Until next time, keep worshiping unified and unhindered.